Welcome to Midlife Schmidlife, the online community for listeners who want to redefine the middle years and recreate their lives lived to the fullest. Join our host, Liz Applegate, as she interviews guests over the age of 40 who are turning their maybe somedays into today and going after their dreams. Let's get the party started.
Transformative life coach, multi-passionate, empty nester, and podcaster. Welcome to episode 4 of Midlife Schmidlife. And if you are in the United States, I want to wish you a very happy and safe 4th of July. Thank you so much for tuning in on a holiday. It's pretty fitting that, and totally unplanned, I must say, that my guest, Kathryn Brown, talks about gaining her own independence from the corporate world by building her business on the side of her busy 9-to-5. She just celebrated her 1-month mark of being out on her own full-time and is very deserving of tonight's fireworks celebrations. During the show, Kathryn and I talk about how we both created our side businesses that allowed us to lose the corporate cubicle. Kathryn also gives rock-solid advice to you Schmidlifers who are wanting to do the same. But before we jump into the interview, I want to share a new opportunity that I created that I'm calling Midlife Clarity Sessions. These are 90 minutes filled with a combination of coaching and strategy. This is perfect for those of you who have an idea in mind, such as creating your own business, but you need an unbiased ear to share your idea, receive feedback, and brainstorm on what to do next. You'll walk away with a plan of action and some insight on things that may be holding you back. If not now, maybe in the future. There's no additional commitments after our 90 minutes together, but this does give you the chance to experience working with a life coach. You can head over to midlifeschmidlife.com/workwithme to find out more. And you can also book your session there. And if you book through the month of July, you'll receive a special introductory discount. Details are on the Work With Me page, so be sure and head over there and book soon. I only have a certain amount of spots available, so don't delay. And before I forget, I want to welcome all my new and returning listeners. And I have a favor to ask. If you could, please be sure to leave a 5-star review and rating on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. This helps Midlife Schmidlife show up toward the top of the list for others who are searching for ways to redefine their life during these middle years. For ease in doing just that on iTunes, because I know it can be kind of confusing, you can go over to midlifeschmidlife.com/iTunes and you'll be taken right to the show's listing. Now, back to our independence interview with Kathryn. You'll be able to find all of the links that we talk about during this time, and also ways to connect with Kathryn on the show notes at midlifeschmidlife.com/Kathryn. Kathryn. So now let's head on over to the interview. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Midlife Schmidlife. Today, I get to introduce you to my friend Kathryn Brown. Kathryn is married to a fellow Canadian who she just happened to meet while living in Southern California. Fast forward 16 years, and they are now living the country life in beautiful East Tennessee. She says that she's a major coffee snob, and her husband actually roasts their beans. It sounds just heavenly to help feed her addiction to coffee. She's a mixed media artist who rediscovered her creativity in her 30s, fell in love with painting in her 40s, and is now exploring pottery on the wheel. Now, not only is she very talented in her art, but she also is a productivity and work balance coach at creatingyourplan.com. Welcome, Kathryn.
Hey, Liz. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining me. So I didn't share your, what I'm calling a midlife ta-da moment, and I wanted you to share that with our listeners.
Well, officially, I have left my 9-to-5. I am now 100% on my own in my own business, and that is just as of the end of actually the first week of June. So it has not even been quite a month. And yeah, it's like, this is huge. This is something I've been dreaming about. It's been my big vision for, I can't tell you how long, to be in my own business, no longer in that, it wasn't 9-to-5 for me. It was more like, 7 to 7 something. So anyway,
right.
yeah, so making that transition, and I am so blessed and so excited.
Yeah, that's so exciting. It's so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I know that, I mean, you and I have been in the same circle of online entrepreneurs for a while now, and I know that you were actually, even with that crazy schedule you had of 12, maybe more hours a day, you were actually building your business on the side, correct?
I was, and it is totally doable. Absolutely. For anyone who's thinking about this, you can do it. It takes some discipline. That's probably the big thing. And showing up even when you don't want to.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, so very true. So true, because I did the same thing. I mean, I was working and then was building my business on the side. And I just remember, long days at the quote 9 to 5, which mine was sometimes longer as well. And then knowing that I had to show up for my business. But it was so different too. And I think about it, and maybe you can relate to this, is that it was a little bit easier. Even if I was physically tired, I knew that I was working on something for myself, for my future. Exactly. And it just made it, I remember kind of dreading it. And when I was thinking about starting to do that, I thought, oh, how am I ever going to make this work? But it is so different when you're working on something that you dream of and in your own projects.
And the biggest differentiator for me was the fact that I had the ability to create the future that I wanted. I wasn't reliant on someone else's agenda, someone else's what they thought was important. I could decide that for myself. And for for a lot of us, that can be kind of scary, right? We're setting our own priorities now. And it's up to us to make this work. There's no longer someone who's going to nicely deposit a paycheck in my bank account now. But even when I was in that transition period, I actually went from like working 50 plus hours per week. And then last year, I downsized myself. I had a conversation with my employer and said, hey, I didn't give the whole story, but I said, I am looking to have a shift in my life. And one of the shifts I'm looking to is to go part-time. Is that doable? And if so, here's my idea of how we could make it work. So I came in with a plan and saying, how can I downsize myself, give myself a little bit more wiggle room as I'm growing my business, and without feeling like it was like all or nothing. So if anyone is in that place, think about that as a possibility. Is there a way to purposefully downsize yourself to a point where you can start transitioning? If you have lots of responsibilities in your day job, start transitioning those off. That was for me, a huge game changer.
And I love that you went in with a solution. I mean, you weren't just asking, hey, I want to go part-time. Now it's up to you to figure this out.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, you went in, you had thought it through, you went in with, okay, this is what I'd like to do, and this is how we can do it. And I feel like that can make a huge difference, because it shows, for one, that you cared about the position as well. If you didn't, you would have just said, Yeah,
exactly. Now, figure it out, I'll show up or not.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long did you work part-time and then build your business part-time?
I did that for 1 year, doing that part-time. And to be honest, it probably wasn't part-time hours, truly. It was less than what I was working. My commutes were cut down because I was only commuting 3 days a week as opposed to 5. But the amount of work was still pretty much the same. But what that allowed me to do is gave me some more space in my day where I wasn't rushing directly from a day job right into a coaching call. And I had so many of days like that the previous year. Thankfully, I had been doing this long enough. It wasn't, I had my mind in the game, and I had a 45-minute commute to kind of get into that mode. Right. But that transition time has really been helpful, and kind of playing with those days, what they could look like.
Right. Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. Great to hear, how someone else made that happen. And congratulations. It's just so exciting.
Thanks so much, Liz.
Yeah. So tell me, what does a productivity and work balance coach? Tell me about that. Tell me what you do, who you help, what that involves.
Well, it's funny. Most of the people that I do work with are small business owners for sure. Whether they're brick and mortar or online, it really doesn't make a difference because the same challenges are present for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically, it is coming up with their biggest challenges are around how do they manage their day so that they get as much done as they want without burning out. So there's that fine balance of how much can I get done and how do I still have a life in the mix, right? Because we're not growing our own businesses so that we can replace one day job for another job. We want some freedom in that. And so the work that I do is really around figuring out how they work best. A lot of people believe you have to be a morning person to be productive. And I am so not. I am not that person. However, I do believe you have to be consistent in your wake-up patterns. Consistency is what leads you to productivity. If you're consistently sleeping in, what do you think your productivity is going to look like? Not so good, right? So we figure out how they work best. It's also using workflow to help them design their day. Like, what kinds of activities are they building into their day? And how can we put those together in a way that it flows from one thing to another and allows them not to be, constantly switching between things, but very purposely working on one thing at a time. And then on top of that, figuring out how can they build in a daily practice that supports them, builds in, helpful habits, whether it be a health regime or a creative practice or anything that helps support them. We put that in together. So I am a big believer in taking things that seem very complex and breaking it down into something that is totally doable and something you can implement over time, not a bunch of change all at once. Let's do this.
Right.
Get this in place. Next step. Put that in place and it grows from there.
Sounds like you and I need to have a talk. Sounds like I need your services.
It's one of my favorite things to talk to people about. I really do believe we all have that core genius of productivity inside us. I really do believe that. But many times it takes, especially for women who have been busy in career or busy with career and family, to really figure out what does productivity look without the structure of a day job. What does that look like? Because now you've stripped away those built-in, those kind of forced constructs in your day. What does it look like now when you have that freedom? You may be an empty nester, or you may have kids that are grown enough that they are getting themselves to and from school. So what does that look like now? And how can you really utilize every moment of your day to live that and show up in your life the way you most want, right?
I know that was big for me when I was working my full-time job and then also building my business on the side. My days were so filled that it almost was easier to be productive just because I had a certain amount of time and I knew. So I get home at 6:30 and then I wolf down dinner and then I go and sit at my computer and work until I can't work any longer and then get up and do it all over again. When I left and went full time, I really struggled with that. I struggled because one, I felt like that I should be working that typical, I'm doing air quotes, 9 to 5 hours.
I see them.
And it really burnt me.
That's scary. I can see them. I feel like I see them right there. Yes.
I felt like, okay, well, now I have to be working this 9 to 5. And then, like you said earlier, I was burning myself out.
And I don't think anybody can tell you exactly what it's going to look like when you make that transition, because we're all different. But the commonality, like you spoke about, is really being intentional about how do you want this new phase of your life to look? It's not going to be the same as your corporate or your 9 to 5 or whatever that used to look like. And how do you want to set that day up? And we have all done ideal day kind of scenarios. If you haven't, that's a fun thing to do. But if you could design your day with intention as a business owner, what would that look like? How would that day be mapped out? And it's really fun to do, especially if you have a chance to do that with your significant other and you are both in business. How do you navigate those two worlds so you actually have time together? That's another part of it, right?
Yeah. Right. So you actually, when I think about it, you are helping people not just with their businesses, it's almost like a lifestyle.
You know what? It is. It feels very much like that. I mean, I do a lot of the business side to it. I'm working with someone who is wanting to really create a very unique experience for her new clients as they come on board into her business and put really a signature experience in place for them as they go through the work that she has, put together for them to do together, and what that looks like. But it all comes down to very purposely, it's about the experience of our life, the experience of the work that we're doing, the experience of the relationships that we build, the experience of the network that we're building as we continue to, meet people like you and I met and continue to expand that circle, right?
Well, first, I just want to mention that I love how, and anybody who visits Kathryn's website, I will have it in the show notes. You can find it at creatingyourplan.com. And one thing that you have to know about Kathryn is she is very creative. I love how you have taken this creativity passion and combined it with something more. I love how you've gone with the left brain, right brain, because you've taken productivity and all the, checking off the boxes and making the lists, and then you've made it very artistic. Can you talk a little bit about that?
This is probably one of the biggest challenges I had when I first started my business, because I have always been creative, but I've always also been that logical, systems-minded person. Like, I love the beauty of a flow chart. To me, flow charts are beautiful. They're, I just love them. And so how can I infuse what it is that I do, which is I create art. I love to do that as part of my, my getting in touch with my inner person, right? And getting in touch with me on a daily basis. How do I integrate that? And I was struggling putting together my website, and my first attempt was so corporate. It was like, I looked at it and I was like, this just doesn't suit me at all. And I had a couple friends look at it and they're just like, yeah, this isn't it yet. And so I remember, and I actually wrote a blog post about this. I remember spending a couple weeks painting every single day, like probably 6 hours a day, painting. And one day I put these colors together, and the space came out of the canvas, and all of a sudden it all came together. I'm just like, I need to be using my art in some way here. And the color palette came from that painting. The girl shows up in my logo, my header. You can see that on my website. And from that point on, I said, why can't I merge these two? What's stopping me? Just because nobody else is really doing it that I, have seen, why can't I do these things? Bring two pieces together, because it makes it so much more me. And people will say, oh yeah, you're the girl who has the girl on her website that you painted, right? And they start to put those things together. So it helped me feel like I was infusing myself. It was definitely a journey for sure.
Yeah, I love that question. Why can't I do these things? I feel that we are guilty, and I'm doing the collective we, everyone listening as well. We all have these, what I'm calling shoulds, and it comes up often in the conversations that I'm having on Midlife Schmidlife. I think especially when we get into these middle years, we've brought along with us all this, what the world has taught us, what the workforce is supposed to look like, what we're supposed to be doing at this time in our life. And so we carry around all these shoulds. Like for you, I can just, like, you should have a very corporate site, and just breaking out of that and bringing yourself fully into your business, and it makes it unique.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was unintentional, but it happened. It was synchronicity. I saw that, and immediately the rest is history.
Perfect.
Right?
That's right. That's right. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So it can happen from a single moment, and things just like, oh, that's it.
I know that you've called the girls that you paint your muses, and so that makes so much sense now, knowing the story behind all of that.
Yeah, they're definitely, and they all, it's really funny, Liz, is the fact that I am not a girly girl in any manner, or form. That's not me. I'm definitely a lot more tomboy than girl when it comes to that. But all my girls are they tend to be more feminine, lots of pink on my website. Pink is not really something I typically use, but it's starting to show up in my life now. Like I'm looking at a file box I just bought. I was like, it's pink.
It's pink.
it's like my muses are starting to influence me, I guess. I don't know.
I think that's great. I do. I think that's great. So tell me I'm just wondering how you decided to build this business. I mean, were you working your 9 to 5? Were you working as doing something similar? Or is this a skill that you knew you were good at, helping people come up with systems and, design their days? Tell me how that happened.
That's a great question. First of all, I have always had an entrepreneurial spirit, but I've never been able to figure out how to execute on it. Like, it was not the right time. I didn't think the idea was right, whatever. So it allowed me, it was probably in my 30s when that started coming up again. And then I got busy with my career. In the 40s, it started coming up again. And it was my late 40s when the bug really hit. It's like, time is running out. If I want to make this happen, the time is now. Let's just do it, But as far as the selection of doing the productivity and work-life balance, it's kind of a combination of things. I've had many iterations of my career. And one of my iterations of my career, I was a corporate trainer. And we talked about all things productivity. I worked on those soft skills with people, on time management, priority management, goal setting, action planning, all of that. So I had a core set of skills from that experience. And I used that throughout my career, throughout my life. And I'm using it now in a small group program that I'm running. So those pieces came with me. And then in a different iteration of my career, I was a project manager. I managed a line of technology products for a manufacturer. And so with that, I used all the skills that I already had, but I also increased my tech knowledge. So all these things started to kind of come together. And so when I started saying, well, what idea do I really want to bring forward and really execute on in my own business? What is it? Where is it that I can pull things that I am both good at, have a passion for? Where do those two meet? And so that's where the productivity piece came from. Right. And the work-life balance that has been my story. How do I work this out? How do I make this happen? And I was my own case study. The productivity planner that I've got came specifically from a planner I created for myself as I was navigating this process. It was something I designed with intention for myself. Right. So it's right. Yeah. So that's kind of it. And I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is, even though I've second guessed myself and all that, we all do, when those things are aligned, you're good at something and you have a passion for it and you can talk about it all day long, get on your soapbox, you probably have to match. And you just have to be patient and persistent, right?
Yeah. Wow. That's just such great advice. I love how you were able to kind of follow this golden thread through what you did in your corporate job and what you knew you were good at. You've been able to combine it with art and just the way that you see the world and just create something that is just unique. And it is your own soapbox. Yeah, in a positive way. So
yeah, I can be on that soapbox for many hours.
But that's great though. So what made it the right time for you to go full-time on your own?
There is never a right time would be my first answer to that. And I will be boldly honest here. My intention was to have, by the time I left my job completely, to have completely replaced my daytime income. That was my intention. And I think most of us, when we are doing that transition, we're in that dance between our day job, building the side business, and waiting for that crossover point. Our intention is always, hey, if I can build my side business to cover what I'm doing in my day job, it's all good, right? Okay, that's the intention. However, the reality is, without the time, energy, and space that you need as someone building her own business, that crossover point wasn't doable working as much as I was and still being able to build this business on the side. So I had to negotiate with both myself and my husband saying, what can we do? So there was a lot of honest conversation between the two of us, talking about what that financial impact would be if I left before that crossover point was met. And we were, we talked about it, and he said, I think it's time. You're, tired of what you're doing in your day job. You are either going to leave your day job and go to another one, which I don't want for you, or you're going to really kick it up a couple notches in your own business and make this really, really happen and profitable and sustainable and something you love to do. So let's go for that option. So,
right.
Yeah, so it was, there's never the perfect time. I don't know if I've heard any stories where someone's been able to make that transition transparent, where the financial has just been equal. I don't,
right.
But you do need a little bit of a money kind of in the background to help you with that transition, because there is going to be, that transition time, right? And you just need to be aware of what that's going to look like and what you're willing to give up in order to make it happen.
You nailed it right there, that there never is a right time. Even if you were able to pretty closely match your income, and that's very hard to do, like you said, because you only have so much energy in the day. It's still so easy to get caught up in thinking that your 9 to 5, I'm just calling it that, your 9 to 5 can provide this security. So you do, which is kind of a false sense of security. So it's really easy to just really feel like you've got to step out in a huge leap of faith and just know that you've got this.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, mindset, they talk about this all the time, the big they. And I'm a believer in that. I mean, you have to have faith that you are doing the work, and the work is results. And you need to look for evidence every single day that the work you're doing is bringing you closer to that, what it is that you are really building. Day jobs can go away. And we think that there's a security somehow in having that day job, but that day job could get downsized at any point. You can lose your benefits. You can get, laid off. You could get fired. You could, all these things. There is no sacred blanket around your day job. I mean, they're going to, someone else has control over your future. Mm-hmm. And by stepping into this role of an entrepreneur, I am in control of my future. I make those decisions on what's going to happen or what's not. And I put my faith in me much more than I would in any employer.
Yes. I'm nodding my head. Yes.
Amen.
Yeah, okay. Amen is right.
Am I soapbox yet? I don't know, Liz. Yeah. I still be on
No, step right on up. Well, I love that soapbox. I actually have goosebumps just listening to you, because it is so true. And I think the funny thing too is people don't talk about, you will continually go through times in your business where you make shifts. And so I know that I've recently am making that shift as I start to build Midlife Schmidlife, and there's decisions to be made, and, you do have to step out on your own faith, and that may mean, scaling back and not taking on this type of client or selling this type of product to make that shift. And so it's really just an ongoing, a growth pattern, if you will. So I'm just adding a little, just a little insight into that, what I've noticed with myself. So it doesn't ever go away, I guess the big thing is. And the fear doesn't really ever go away either. There's a healthy amount of fear in there. And I think that that's okay. It's a motivator, but you have a choice in that, just like you said, the mindset.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I don't know what I was going to say. I think I was just opening my mouth and something was going to come out, but I'm not sure what it was yet.
Oh, darn. I interrupted it. Well, I was just going to ask you, because I do feel that stepping out, stepping away from what we feel secure, where have you seen this fear, and what was it that you did or told yourself about that?
Oh, that's a really good question. depending on the day, I would answer that differently. And that
I'm laughing with you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, the fear that of doing something really before you're ready. I'll give you for instance. I've had this dream of offering this small group program for forever, as far as I can remember, and I kept saying, well, it's not the right time. I'm in my day job, or it's not the right time. I'm busy with clients, or it's not the right time. We've just got a lot of stuff going on in my personal life. I don't think I can manage this. And so I said, I'm just going to pick a date and I'm going to run this program regardless. And so I picked the date of, what date was it? It was the June. It was right after we got back from California. So I think it was the 17th, whatever. I'm trying to think what that day was.
So just recently.
And so I said, I'm picking this date. I'm going to bring in 9 women to work with me for 6 weeks. Now, I was not ready. I had just, the day that it was going to start running, I was going to be flying in the night before. But I went ahead and prepped my first 2 days worth of content. I had an internet connection. I knew things would be fine. So I stepped out on faith, knowing what I have is really, really good. It's more than good enough. And it is, if I don't take the step forward, as soon as I leave this comfort zone of having an income coming from an employer, I'm going to waste time. I need to start on running right from the beginning. So I started on the fast track. I was running a program as soon as I came from our quick little trip to California. I started our program. And so my biggest thing on that, I didn't feel ready. I was like, I'm not ready. And I said, I'm just going to do it. There's no time is going to be perfect. And so I would say that having the faith that to do something that you're more than capable of doing and delivering it even when you're not ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, kudos to you and congratulations. I think that's totally awesome and very inspirational, and makes me want to put a date on my own calendar. So
I hope you do.
Yeah.
And I'll keep you accountable on that. Hold you to the fire, as they say.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to have that accountability. So yeah. So what has surprised you? Now I know that going out on your own is, we talked about, is just, pretty fresh right now, but is there anything that has surprised you about going out on your own? Maybe something you weren't expecting, good or bad?
I think one of the things is I feel like I have more permission to be more visible now that I am not under contract with an employer. Mm-hmm. That to me, it felt kind of, up to this point, it felt a little bit like I couldn't be as visible as I wanted to be, that I kind of had to do this on the down low, even though there was nothing in my contract that prohibited me from doing this. It felt almost like I was cheating, even,
Yeah.
But I was only, I was working on my business on my own time. It was never in conflict with my employer, but I was always thinking, I felt like there was a dishonor in doing this. And so by moving fully into my day job, what it's allowed me to do is be much more bold, taking more risk, like running a small group program, even before I thought I was ready.
Right.
I'm not running it through a membership site. I'm doing it at very, very low key, easy to distribute, easy to manage, doing those kinds of things, doing some Facebook Lives, running some Facebook ads. Those kinds of things have allowed me to, I feel like I can take more bold action, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It really does.
So that surprised me, I think, most so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, well, what's so funny is I just had a total midlife moment, and I was going to ask you a question about that, and now I can't remember what I was going to ask you. So
circle back.
Yeah, it'll come to me in a minute. Is there anything that you would have done differently? Whether it's going out on your own or starting your business on the side, either one.
I would have started sooner. I think that's the biggest thing. I would have, when this first started really coming more clear, I would have started sooner. I probably, oh gosh, it's hard to say, hindsight's 2020, as they say, right?
Right.
But I think starting sooner, even if it meant still my day job, but starting sooner and getting a little bit ahead of where I am now, like time-wise. I feel like I've lost a bit of time when I wish I had started, even 6 months sooner.
Right. Do you feel that that's an age thing? I mean, this is midlife schmidlife, so, age is a factor in here. Do you feel like that age kind of motivates you to wish you would have started sooner?
Always. And not to say, there's the comparisonitis that comes out, but you see a lot of very ambitious and go-getting women in their late 20s and their 30s and their 40s who have really taken their businesses by the horns and really stepped into it and have taken bold action and are seeing really, really great results. And I'm so proud of each of them. Whenever I see that, all I can think of is, yay, you. That is amazing. I'm so excited. And my younger version of myself says, I wish that I had done this sooner. And yes, I think the approach of when I turned 50, just having that number in my head, I'm just like, am I where I want to be in my life? And there was definitely a come to Jesus moment. I'm just like, am I where I want to be? And if I'm not, what am I going to do about it? What risks am I willing to take? And I had to have that discussion with myself over a number of months. And then, and say, okay, enough. Stop playing. It's time to get serious and do this, right?
Turning 50, there's just something about turning 50. And I had the same conversation with myself. It was what am I doing? Am I where I want to be? I don't think it ever hit me the way that it hit me until that magical birthday. Or actually, it was a couple months before. I think it was just such a reminder. And not to be, I don't mean that in a morbid way, but it just really is a reminder of the time that you've spent here and just what, I don't know, it's just like a kick in the it's kind of like, all right, if we're going to do it, let's do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would say that would be it on the nose, is it's just really paying attention, and having those conversations. Either I have them out loud sometimes, but in my journal or whatever, but making time and space for those ideas and those thoughts and those feelings to come forward and saying, am I really living my purpose right now? And if not, what am I willing to do to make that happen?
Definitely. It's a good reminder to actually have that conversation with ourselves almost on a daily basis. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you talked a little bit about your younger self. What advice would you give her if you could? Say Kathryn at 20.
I think Kathryn at 20 was doing pretty good. I think she was taking bold action in her 20s. I think my conversation would probably be, Kathryn in her early 30s, what would you be doing? And saying, really evaluating where in her personal growth, where would she want to be, both in career and family? What would that look like if I could have her go back and look at that a little bit more intentionally, and not make decisions based on, this is the easiest path. Sometimes you have to take a harder road to get what you really want, and saying, and having that conversation with her. So instead of staying in a job for 14 years, staying in that job for 2 while you got your feet under you in this new place, and then stepping into what you really feel called to be doing.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Definitely. So what advice would you give someone that, say, is approaching 50 and they are wanting to, start their own business on the side? What advice would you give them?
I would say to start really getting clear. And I think the first step is, where do your gifts and passion, where do those intersect? And start really getting clear about what that is, and what that could look like for you.
Mm-hmm.
Have conversations with people. Get on the phone with people you know, friends of friends, family, and just have discussions around things you feel very passionate about. And see what comes from that. See what takeaways you have from those. Spend some time in that place. When you think you have something that it feels good. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it feels good enough to explore. Spend the next, I would say the next 3 to 6 months, seeing if you can actually have conversations with people around this specific topic, and writing about this specific topic. It could be writing even personal blog posts, but start having conversations around what you feel passionate about, and and that's going to bring clarity in what it is that you really, really want, and what you are passionate about. It's going to become so clear. You're going to get language that is only yours. So I would say, before hopping in and saying, I'm going to do this, start exploring that. Give yourself a timetable, maybe 6 months, and say, this is what I'm going to do for the next 6 months. I'm going to explore where that connection was between my gifts and my passion. Where do those intersect? And start talking to people, and start writing. And talking, doing those two pieces together that's so powerful. It allows you to really get clearer and clearer. And within that window, something will come to the fore, and you're going to know. But you have to give it time, you have to give it space, and you have to take action. And that's daily action around that.
That's such great advice. Such great advice. Anything that you have planned on the horizon? Anything coming up for you in the future?
Yeah, another round of the small group program. Then I'll be running that in September. I have a feeling there's something in terms of a mentorship opportunity. I'm feeling some call towards doing some of that work with people. And I'm also continuing with my own refinement about the one-to-one services that I offer. And I mentioned ones already about, really designing a very intentional experience for people as they create their onboarding system for bringing on new clients, how that looks as they're working together and as they let those clients move on to the next part of their business. So those kinds of things are always in the works and constant refinement.
People can go to your website and can receive your productivity planner. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Actually, and I hope Liz will put that specific link to the productivity planner in the show notes. This is the planner that I used as I was building my business. This is the planner I designed for myself. The questions that I put in here to prepare for the week ahead and to reflect on the week that has just occurred are the ones that I still use in my business. The principles that are in here are the ones that I use with my clients. There are bits and pieces that you could take and use for your own, personal use. I think that there's something in there for everybody. So I would, strongly encourage, if you are interested in a productivity planner, this is something that is very easy to implement, just taking little bits and pieces. There's other things on my site, of course. I have a goal setting toolkit, lots of things. Checking out my blog. I've got lots of content upgrades throughout, but would love to get to know anybody who is interested in learning more about productivity and work-life balance, just to get some more information. And that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's so great. I actually think I'm going to sign up. It looks so beautiful too. So
thanks so much.
So yeah. And like I said, I will have the link directly in the show notes, so everybody can head on over there. You could find that at midlifeschmidlife.com/Kathryn, and that will be where the show notes will be, with all the links that we talked about in today's show. Thanks again, Kathryn. I appreciate so much all the bits of wisdom and just the encouraging experiences that you shared with us. And I appreciate so much you spending time on Midlife Schmidlife.
Well, I absolutely love talking to you, Liz. This has been a great pleasure for me. And I hope that it was valuable for your listeners and look forward to chatting again soon.
Thank you so much, Kathryn, for being a guest on Midlife Schmidlife. Schmidlifers, I hope you really enjoyed all the words of wisdom and the tips that Kathryn gave. Now, Kathryn gives advice to anyone wanting to start their own business by looking at your own gifts and passions and seeing how they can help others. She recommends taking a set time limit. She used 6 months as an example. And she also offers to do some exploration around this by talking to others and journaling. Now, from my own experience, I can say that this step is crucial to getting a clear picture on taking your gifts and turning them into a viable business. When you follow Kathryn's story, you see that she took skills from her past jobs, recognized them as her own gifts, and saw how she could help others be more productive in their days in both life and business. If you're multi-passionate like me and like Kathryn, and wondering how this may all work, you can look at my own story on how I first got started. I was able to use my online marketing and tech skills to provide virtual support services for busy entrepreneurs. I actually built this business on the side of my busy 9-to-5. I would go to work my typical 9 to 5 hours, come home, jump online, and serve my clients. And also from my experiences, I want to add in here that as I was building up my clientele and serving them with the marketing and tech skills I had, I realized that they really needed someone who would listen to them, someone they could bounce ideas off of. They needed a coach. And that's when I added in coaching skills and became a certified life coach. From that experience, I realized that coaching was really how I wanted to help people. And I felt super energized when I was working with clients that were in these middle years, that were rediscovering themselves and redefining what their life looked like. And that's how Midlife Schmidlife was born. So you can see how I started with one gift and moved to another. But the most important point to get across is that I started. And that's why Kathryn gives the 6-month recommendation to do some exploration, because you have to get started. Now, you may be wondering what skills and passions that you have that really are gifts that can help others. And if this is you, I invite you to look at 3 different questions. The first question is, what do my friends and family always ask me for help with? What is that special thing that just, that they just know that they can come to you and you can handle it? The second question is, what comes easily to you and is hard to believe that others just don't get? That could be event planning, it could be baking, it could be doing the books. The third question to ask is, what are your soapbox moments? What do you feel so strongly about that you can help others with? In exploring those 3 questions, you may be really able to pinpoint what are gifts to you and really then start exploring ways that you can help others. Now, if you are needing help with this, like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, you can sign up for a midlife clarity session. I'll have the links over in the show notes, midlifeschmidlife.com/Kathryn, and find out more information. Now, I hope you'll join us next week when I bring to you a very special guest. Her name is Gretchen McNeely, and she has a very courageous story to share. So until next time, have a wonderful week.
Thanks for joining Liz for the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. Remember, some days are never on your calendar until you put them there. Until next time.